Continuing where I left off, now daylight left the sky, and the mild moon, in mid-heaven, rode her night-wandering car. But duty would not give Aeneas rest. He held the tiller still shifted sail. Then look, halfway upon his course, a band of old companions hove in sight. The nymphs, who kind Cybele had, by her command, transformed from ships to nymphs and given power over the sea. Swimming abreast they came, parting the waves, as many as one time had prows of bronze and moored ashore far off. They knew their king, and, like a dancing chorus, veered round his ship. Once more adept at speaking, Samodose in his wake took hold of the ship aft with her right hand and pulled herself up as her left hand kept her stroke in quiet water. Then she spoke to the still unwitting captain. "Still awake, Aeneas, kin to gods? Be wakeful then, and slacken off your sheet. We are those pines from Ido's holy crest, and once your fleet now becomes sea nymphs. When the base Rutilian bore down on us with sword and fire headlong, we broke our cables, though against our will. All through the sea we look for you, this form, the mother of gods, in pity fashioned for us, allowing us as goddesses to spend our lives under the waves. Now learn from us, the boy Ascanius is pinned down behind his wall and moat, amid attacking spears of Latins rough in onslaughts. Even now Arcadian horse, mingled with brave Etruscans, hold their appointed place. But Turnus plans to throw his squadrons in between, to keep the Arcanians from your camp. Now up with you, as dawn comes order a call to arms for all your troops, and take the shield the Lord of Fire himself supply you, made unconquerable, and rimmed with gold. If you'll trust what I say, the new day sees heaps of Rutulians slain." When she had said this, as she slipped away, with her right hand she sped the tall ship onward, having the skill of it, the ship more swift than javelin or arrow down the wind, took flight over the waves. The ships behind lifted the pace. Anchises' Trojan son, amazed and baffled, even so took heart and comfort from the omen. Raising his eyes to heaven's vault, briefly he prayed, "Benignant Lady of Ida, Mother of Gods, to whom Mount Dynamis is dear, and towered cities, and lions yoke in tandem on their harness, be my first patroness in combat. Bring fulfillment of the augury. Come near thy fragrant soldiers, goddess, and advance with friendly stride." He prayed thus as the day came swiftly round again with ripened light and routed darkness. First he gave his people orders to act on signals, to devote their minds to war and fit themselves for action. By now, as he stood high upon the stern, he had the Trojans and the camp in view. On his left arm, holding the shield ablazed, he raised it up now. From the walls the Trojans shouted to heaven, hope reawakened wrath, and they hurled missiles, clamoring as when the cranes that home on Strymon through the clouds called back and forth as they traversed the heavens, leaving the south behind with cheerful cries. Rutilian prince and captains of Oceania marveled first at all this, till they turned it and saw the sterns already nearing shore, the whole sea moving landward with the ships. Aeneas' helmet blazed. Flames from the crest gushed upward. The gold boss of his great shield shot out vast firelight, even as when blood-red, ill-omened through transparent night, a comet glows, or Sirius comes up, that burning star that brings drought and disease to ill mankind. and makes all heaven drear with baleful shining. Not for that did Turnus failed in audacity in his confident hope to occupy the shore first and drive back the invaders from the beach. Here is the chance you prayed for, now to hack them up with swords. The battle is in your hands, men. Let each soldier think of his wife, his home. Let each recall heroic actions, great feat of our fathers. Down to the surf we go, while they're in trouble, disembarking, losing their footing. Fortune favors men who dare. Now he took thought for what troops he should lead in the assault, and those to leave pressing the siege. Meanwhile, Aeneas put off on landing ramps from the high sterns. They waited, many of them, for the slack water in a breaker's ebb, and leapt into the shallows. Some held on to oars for steadiness. Now Tarchon sighted shoreline without a sandbar or lawn breakers, only the sea swell mounting, going in unhindered to a line of surf and smother. He swung his prows at once, and begged his men, "Picked oarsmen, now give way with your good oars, and lift the bow with every stroke. Then split this enemy land wide open with your beaks. Let each keel plow the shingle. It's all one with me if we break up, beaching her here, once the dry land is under us." At this the crew surged at the oars and drove the ships in spume against the mainland, till the prows crunched in, and keels in safety came to rest. But not yours, Tarchon, grounded in shoal water. She hung tipped over on a sloping reef, a long time, balancing, tiring the swell, until she came apart and spilled her crew into the waves. Oar halves and floating thwarts impeded seamen. Undertow pulled back their feet from under them. At the same time, no sluggish held Turnus. On the double he brought his line of battle down upon the Trojans and disposed it on the shore. Now trumpets gave their signal. In the lead Aeneas broke through the troops from the countryside, a first good omen for the fight to come, and mow the Latins down. He killed the giant thereon, and left ranks to encounter him, bent on meeting the enemy champion. A sword blade driven through his bronze chainmail, and tunic stiff with gold drank from his side, slashed open. Next, Aeneas struck Lycus down, a man excised from his dead mother's womb, and held then consecrate to thee, Apollo, as one who had been granted immunity in infancy from the perilous knife. Nearby Aeneas hurled to death tough Sisus and Gaius the gigantic. These with clubs had bludgeoned ranks of men, but Hercules, old weapon in their powerful hands, could not help them win through, nor could their sire Melampus, comrade of Hercules in those days with earth, afforded him hard labors. Then, as Pharis babbled oaths, Aeneas sent his javelin, spinning, "Look!" into his yelling mouth. You too, unlucky Sidon, at the side of Clytius, your latest joy, whose cheeks were golding with down, might have succumbed to the Dardan's blow, and lain pitiful sight, free of the loves you overbore, young men, had not your band of brothers in a mass come forward, Phorcys' son, all 7 of them, hurling 7 javelins. A number glanced ineffectual from helm and shield, and others kindly Venus turned aside, so they should only graze him. Aeneas spoke to Loius Achates, "Hand me still more spears, of those lodged in the Greeks at Ulium. My throwing arm will not send one astray." He took a heavy spear and cast it hard, winged in the air, so that it crashed clean through the brazen shield of my own, then stove in his breastplate and his breast. Alcanor, who had run to help, held up his falling brother, but passing onward on its bloody way, the spear went through his arm, and the arm hung lifeless on its tendons from his shoulder. Numitor, then pulling the spear away out of his brother man's body, threw it but at Aeneas, but had not the luck to hit him, only grave Achates' thigh. Now up came one from Curius Clausus, bold in the first flush of youth. Putting his back into a long shot with his rigid spear, he hit Dryops just under the chin. The point passed through his throat and took his life and voice upon the instant as he gave a cry. His forehead smote the ground, and he spewed gore. By various strokes Clausus brought down as well 3 Thracians, men of Boris' high house, and 3 whom Father Idas and their country Ismarus had sent. Then came Halasus, then the Aurucan troops, Messapus then, the cavalry leader, Neptune's son. First these, then those fought hard to push the landing parties back, and on Ocelian's very threshold the pitched battle raged it. As in wide heaven, contrary winds do battle, matched in force and impetus, and neither will give way to the other side, nor will clouds nor sea give way. The fight hangs in the balance, power to power, locked in stalemate. Even so the ranks of Troy with ranks of Latins met in combat, foot to foot, unbudging, man to man. At another point a stream in flood had rolled, a scattering of stones and trees uprooted. Here, where the rough watercourse had made them leave their mounts and fight on foot against their custom, Pallas saw Acarnanians turn their backs on Latins in pursuit. In that crisis he had but one recourse, to sting them by appeals and bitter chiding. Friends, where are you bound, I beg you now, by all the brave things you have done? The wars fought through, your leader, great Evander, with my hopes of humiliating him, put no faith in treat. The way ahead has to be clear by cold steel through the enemy. There where the mass of them is heaviest, your proud lands call you forward, and calls me, Pallas, your captain. No unearthly powers stand in our way. We are hemmed in by soldiers, mortal as we are mortal. Just as many lives as many hands belong to us. Look how the deep sea's barrier behind us cuts us off. No land there for retreat. Is it the camp we head for, or the water? With this he charged the clump of enemy center. First to meet him, led by cruel fate, was Lagus, as this man tore from the ground a heavy boulder. Pallas put a javelin through him where the spine divides the ribs, then pulled it from the cage of bone it clung to. There, as he bent over, his bow failed to hit him, though he hoped to, running up in reckless rage at a comrade's cruel death. Pallas received them with a sword thrust deep in his expanded lung. Next he went after Sathanas and the scion of Rochus' line, Achamalus, who dared his stepmother's incestuous bed. And you, twin brothers, too, Laridus, Thymber, fell on the Rutilian field, identical sons of Dasus, so alike their parents, happily bemused, could never tell the two apart. Now Pallas made a grim distinction. Now Evander's blade cut Timber's head off, while for you, Laridus, dying fingers of your right hand severed, fluttered as they groped for the sword hilt. Made hot by his reproach, and seeing him fight with such distinction, the Acarnanians were armed by rage and shame against the foe. Then Pallas put a spear through Rochus as he sped past him in his car, escaping you, noble Teuthras, and your brother Tyrus. That gave a breathing space to Ilus, target of Pallas' spear, which Ruthius intercepted. Down from his car he rolled and kicked the earth of Italy as he died. When the winds rise, long for in summer, a shepherd kindles fires in woods as scattered points. Then in a rush, the spaces in between blazed up, and Vulcan's line of battle spreads without a break, in ragged flame across the countryside. And seeing he has brought it off, the man looks down on the triumphant fires, Just so brave acts of comrades came together. Pallas in one tableau of bravery for your sake. But now against them came Halesus, king in warfare, brave in armor. First he killed Ladon, then Pharis the Demodocus. With a sword flash he lopped off the right hand Stramonius had raised, aimed at his throat. Then with a stone he smashed the face of Thios, shattering the skull bones mixed with brains and blood. His father had foretold Halesus' fate and hidden him in woodland. But the day the old man closed his glazing eyes in death, the Parcæ took the son in hand to be cut down, blood sacrifice by Evander's spear. Thus it was that Pallas prayed before he threw against him, "Grant, O Father Tiber, luck to the steel of this shaft I let fly, a passage through the hard chest of Halesus. Then these arms that I shall strip from him shall be your oaks to hold." This the god heard, for while Halesus held his shield for Ammon, he left his chest bare to the Arcanian spear. Now Lausus, a great figure in the battle, would let no troops of his be terrified by all the carnage heroic Pallas wrought. His first exploit was bringing Abas down, Abas who faced him, knotty bastion of Trojans in the fight. Arcanians fell, Etruscans fell, and you too, Trojans, soldiers, bodies the Greeks had left unscathed. The lines of troops met, matched in strength and officers, crowded by rear ranks till the congested front allowed no elbow room for weaponry. Here Pallas strove and pressed it. Against him, Lausus, not much disparate in age, and both splendid in height and build, but fortune gave neither a homecoming to his native land. Now, though the mighty ruler of Olympus would not let them encounter one another, their fates awaited them, each at the hands of still greater foe. The nymph Juturna, Turnus, loving an immortal sister, counseled him to go to Lausus' aid. From his command posts to the battle's heart, in a flying chariot he cut his way, and seeing his own men cried, "The time has come to interrupt this battle. I take Pallas. Pallas falls to me. I wish his father stood here to watch." At his command the troops drew off, clearing the ground. As they gave way, the Arcanian, struck by the arrogant command, stood amazed at Turnus. Casting his eyes upon the giant form, he took his measure. All at a distance still, with a grim stare, they countered thus the tyrant's brutal words: "Either I win the honor of taking spoils from the enemy commander, or I die a noble death. My father will bear alike one destiny or the other. No more threats." He strode into the open, and the blood turned cold into hearts of the Arcanians. Down from his chariot Turnus leapt and lunged 1 foot to closer quarters, as a lion, after he sights from some high place a bull far off, spoiling for combat on the plain, goes bounding forward. Such was the look of Turnus as he came on. When he seemed near enough for a spear cast, Pallas opened the engagement, hoping his daring would bring luck to him. Outmatched in power as he was, he cried to the open air above him, "By my father's welcome and the feast to which you came a stranger, Hercules, now lend your help to my great effort here, I pray. Let Turnus, dying, see me take his blood-stained arms, and bear the sight of me, his conqueror." Hercules heard him. Deep in his heart he quailed a mighty groan, and let the vein tears flow. At this the Olympian father addressed his son in kindness: "Every man's last day is fixed. Lifetimes are brief, and not to be regained for all mankind, but by their deeds to make their fame last. That is labor for the brave. Below the walls of Troy so many sons of gods went down, among them, yes, my child, Sarpedon, Turnus too is called by fate. He stands at the given limits of his years. So saying, Jupiter turned his eyes away from the land of the Rutilians. On the field, with all his might, Pallas let fly his spear. They drew his flashing blade out of the sheath. Onward the shaft flew till it punched its way through the layers of the shield rim, then struck home where there was the cuirass lap the ridge of shoulder, grazing Turnus's great torso in the end. But after balancing for a long time, his oaken shaft, with whetted head of steel, pointed at Pallas, Turnus hurled it, saying, "Watch this, and see if my spearhead has not more penetrating power." With quivering shock, his point ripped through the center of the shield, through all the skins of steel and bronze and bull's hide, outer integumentals, and then punched through the cuirass armor and the stalwart chest. Pallas pulled from the wound the warm spearhead in vain, for blood and life came out as well by the same passage. Forward on his torn breast he plunged, his armor clanging over him, and bit the hostile earth with bloody mouth as he gave up his life. Looming above him, Turnus called, "Arcadians, note well, and take back to Evander what I say. In that state, which his father merited, I send back Pallas. And I grant in full what honor tombs confer, what consolation comes of burial. No small price he'll pay for welcoming Aeneid." As he spoke, he pressed with his left foot upon the dead, and pulled away the massive weight of sword belt graven with pictured crime. That company, Aegisthus' son, killed by Daunus' daughters, young men murdered on one wedding night, their nuptial beds blood-stained. Eurytus' son, Clounus, had chased the images in gold. Now Turnus gloried in it, in his winning. The minds of men are ignorant of fate and their future lot, unskilled to keep due measure when some triumph sets them high. For Turnus then will come a time when he would give the world to see again an untouched Pallas, and will hate this day, hate that belt taken. Now on the battleground, Pallas troops in tears with many groans throng to bear off the prince laid on his shield. O grief, O glory, destined for your father, this your first day gave you to the war and took you from it, even though you leave windrows of Rutilian dead. Thank you so much for watching this. I'm going to leave it there, and please give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, leave a comment, subscribe, or just view, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.